This video is aimed at low airtime pilots, or even experienced pilots who do most of their flying inland, therefore might find themselves a bit rusty when it comes to coastal flying. It is not intended to be a training video. However, it's hoped that by taking note of some of these tips and techniques, it will help you avoid the pitfalls which can spoil a good day's flying on the coast. Although these videos could be used as a side guide, they do not replace the official side guides of the Ceilidh Club on the Ceilidh Club website. The videos are short and concise to make them more manageable, therefore check out others in the series and use them before you head to the coast. They may make your day more enjoyable. I hear a lot of inland pilots say they don't fly the coast because it's boring and you can't go ex-sea. Now let's be honest with ourselves here. Even on a good day, how many pilots on the hill go ex-sea? An handful? And as for boring, well, I suspect they haven't been looking at my videos I've done over the last 12 months. So for them of you who've missed them, here's a little taster. So, what are the main differences between inland flying and coastal flying? Well, for a start, you'll be flying probably to an holiday resort, so bring the family. So while we're all sat para-waiting and talking parabolics on the cliff top, the wife and kids will be happy with a bucket and spade on the sand, and the dog can have a swim in the sea. Perfect. Oh, and don't forget your flying suit. The number of pilots who turn up from the peaks in the middle of summer in the shorts and t-shirts, only to find that the coast is a good 10 degrees cooler than it is at Sheffield. It's never warm enough. So what's the first thing we do before we set off to the coast? Check the tides. Ideally, you're looking for low water somewhere between about 10 o'clock in the morning and say 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the summer. That'll give a long day of flying. The next thing we need to check is the wind speed and direction. You obviously need an onshore breeze. Don't be fooled by the prevailing winds. A strong westerly can easily turn to an onshore easterly on the coast. And an onshore breeze can be very localised. You can be 5 miles from the coast with a 20 mile an hour offshore breeze and yet arrive at Bridlington and it's a 15 mile an hour onshore. Don't ask me how that works. Here we have a typical example. A south-southwesterly offshore breeze pulling in at Brid and Filey at a 12 knots south-southeasterly. Perfect. So you've got to the coast, it's a perfect day. Now let's look at some of the mistakes you're liable to make. The first one is where to set up your wing. The chances are you'll set it up near the edge of the cliff. That's a mistake. For a start, you'll be in a wind shadow. The wind will be blowing straight up the cliff and over your head. You'll just not get the wing off the ground. You've got to remember, you're not on an hillside, you're on the flat. Take Rushock for example. Too much tug on the lines and the wing's over your head and pulling you off the hillside. You don't have that on a cliff top. So instead, set the wing up about 20 metres back from the edge. Pull it up gently and sort yourself out. You've got all the time in the world. You're not going to be oiked off the cliff. And probably the second mistake you'll make is not putting enough effort in. So your wing will get halfway up and start kiting. At this point you've just got to relax your legs, put a bit of pressure on your seat and your harness, and your wing will come up over your head nicely and be well under control. At this point you're ready for takeoff. Now this is where you'll probably make your third mistake. Here's how not to do it. You've got your wing up, everything's under control, you're powering towards the edge of the cliff, And then you're confronted with a sheer drop and water. Your mind says, no way. And you start hop, skipping and jumping. You've got to have commitment. About 10 metres back from the edge, it's head down, weight forward and go for it. Conditions are good, you'll be flying well before the edge. You'll notice from this clip that it keeps well tucked in and makes no effort to fly out over the beach. This is because the lift band is very localised and it very rarely extends more than 50 metres out from the cliff edge. So let's look again at a good takeoff. You've got your wing up, you've got it under control, you turn to face out to sea and you're powering off. As you go over the edge of the cliff, the next mistake you'll make is to head too far out. You have to tuck in close. As a general rule of thumb, you want to be between the cliff top and the foot of the cliff. And as the cliffs get steeper and steeper, you can then move further and further away from the cliff edge as the lift band widens. Just bear in mind though, if you get it wrong, you're in the brambles.
Can we have a smile from you all, please?
So at last we're in the air. But just bear in mind, you're in a lift band which is only maybe 50 metres wide, and you'll struggle to get lift initially in light winds. There'll come a point where you'll want to turn. Just remember, behind you there'll be fellow flyers struggling in the same lift band. If you do a quick 180, you'll end up flying into their faces. So at this point, forget all you've learnt about right shoulder to the ridge, having right away. Look over your shoulder, see who's coming up behind you, and head out to sea and give them a wide berth. And don't go zigzagging in and out. Keep a positive track. You'll be surprised how close you can pass to each other in safety. So now we're up and away, let's see where the lift's generated. Inland we have numerous sources. Rocks, trees, ploughed fields, dark buildings, tarmac roads. So should we really expect thermals to kick off from the cold North Sea? Well, you'd be surprised. For a start, cold is relative. The sea very rarely gets below about 7 or 8 degrees centigrade, even in the depth of winter. And the air temperature could be as much as minus 14 degrees. So there's hell of a temperature difference there. Probably as much a temperature difference as you would get in the middle of summer between the air and hot rocks, for instance. One of my most memorable flights was soaring above Speedon Cliffs in the middle of February with virtually nil winds, purely on a sea therm. And to make nearly 1,000 foot above takeoff and 1,500 foot above sea level in the middle of winter is magic. So one golden rule of coastal flying is never to write off light winds. If the birds are flying and there's virtually no wind, you should be in the air with them. You'd be surprised how little wind you can soar on. On the coast the air is more dense, therefore is more buoyant. You'll get thermals kicking off a steaming beach, off dark seaweed, off rocks, no different to you would inland, except they'll be smaller, tighter, vicious sometimes, certainly in spring. And for those inland pilots who think that coastal flying is boring, just bear one thing in mind. Cloud streets are formed out at sea. They're effectively horizontal thermals. Now imagine taking off into one of those. That'll really make you think. So if all this has whetted your appetite for some coastal flying, watch out for the following videos, which will be site specific. I'll give you takeoff and landing techniques and site guides for such sites as Bridlington, Mappleton Sands, Reeton, Speeton, just to name a few of the many varied sites.